Welcome to the Life of Styn, where our goal is to make your life yours again. I mean, among other things, depending on what your agenda is, whether it's improving the quality of your life or discovering more things about yourself and this universe, whatever it may be. If any of this relates to you, then this is the place for you. Today, we're going to be doing more of an advanced topic, but arguably the most basic topic, some might say. Now, if you don't believe you're very far along in your journey in life or self development, et cetera, whatever you may call this work, just basic self help, that doesn't necessarily mean this episode isn't for you. Honestly, those who don't have preconceived notions of what they think is going on makes this material easier to interpret. But one thing I must stress, whether you deem yourself advanced or a beginner in this work, is this: come into this episode with an open mind. Explore the possibilities. If you don't, there's no point in continuing this video. We will be discussing things very nuanced and maybe very different from what you first thought about reality and the way the world works. Another thing to remember is to take everything with a grain of salt. Just like the word and description of an orange doesn't really show you what an orange is, these words, when taken literally, will stray you far from the truth, and that's a problem that spans worldwide in all sorts of limiting belief systems. Here in this video, the point of it is so that you intellectually understand who you really are. Like, intellectually, you may be able to understand that numbers are infinite, but knowing they're infinite is different. Maybe that's not the best example, but we will be doing various thought experiments and just go along with them. I'm not asking you to believe any of the things I say in this video. And actually, blind belief will hurt more than help, because when you believe something, it means you don't know. You don't say, I believe I'm alive. You just know you are because things are happening, within your awareness. What I want to do is expand your awareness to things you never thought possible, because in your current belief system, they can exist. Here I'm sharing possibilities, and whether you're a believer in God or many gods, or whether you're not a believer in anything, mind you, I'm not proving one side and discrediting the other. So don't be ignorant if I tell you God exists and all the God believers go, oh, I told you so. And don't be ignorant if I tell you God doesn't exist and all the atheists go, oh, I told you so. In a world of duality are truths, but they are only half true and half false. What I want you to understand is an absolute truth that is true no matter what you believe, no matter the variables and conditions placed upon it. Truth under all circumstance, and truth that is absolute cannot be destroyed, it can only be hidden. But riddle me this, all of you out there who have beliefs you'll die protecting. If the truth is always true and it's invulnerable to test or time, then what kind of defending does it need? The sun doesn't need you to destroy all the clouds because they're blocking the sun and now no one can see it and everything's ruined. Can you see both sides of the coin and how evil manifests itself everywhere ignorance lies? It's fine to believe whatever you want, okay? But the thing is, there are no wrong and right beliefs in non-duality. I heard a quote by Alan Watts: "The path to hell is paved with good intentions." But what does that mean? Well, he also says something along this effect. There were great warriors or tribes that pillaged and killed and stole, but they didn't mask it under some sort of righteousness. It was pure selfishness. But when doing things under such selfishness, you kill the men, you take the women and the children, the land and possessions, and you make it your own. But when great nations fight a war over righteousness, or what they believe is righteousness, those are the most terrible wars. Those are the wars where they burn everything: the women, the children, the land, the possessions, all to the ground, and they mask their own evil with righteousness or good intentions. Walking straight into the hell, they do it, completely ignorant or of their own wrongdoing. Now, when you fear something, you want to get rid of it completely. Anyways, if it isn't obvious, there needs to be a lot of build up before really getting into it, because just like if a jacuzzi's too hot and you jump in, you burn up, you get out, and you don't ever want to get back in. But if you warm up to it first and gradually submerge yourself, it becomes quite the pleasant experience. And then you are glad you did it. So let's continue with the thought experiment. I'm going to be using words interchangeably here, as always in the Life of Styn, because I prefer to use words that haven't been so tainted by stigma or limiting belief systems, which is why I like to stem away from like the word God or using spirituality or any of those words, because those words have been so blown out of proportion from both sides, and it's turned into something straying far from what from the path of what that word actually points at. So I want to use terminology that is more universal for everyone. So let's get started into the thought experiment. Okay, imagine that you are the universe. You're everything that existed. You're everything that ever did and ever will exist. You are so much the universe that you're actually the nothingness that the universe has space to exist in. You can do anything. You can be anything. You know everything. You're perfect. There's nothing outside of you, and nothing gets past you because it's you. Infinitely infinite, boundless, so much so in a way that space and time are things you created. You exist outside of space and time, yet space and time is you as well. You're every person, you're every living thing, and every non living thing in this perspective. Everything to you would be equally living or not living because you're all of it. You're more than God in this state. Everything is the same because it's you. You love everything equally because it's you. There is not duality. There's no good or bad, no better or worse. You can't be biased when you're literally everything that ever existed. Not just like a video game where you activate cheats and you enter the quote unquote God mode. It gets pretty boring pretty quick because there are no surprises when you are everything ever. Right? So there's nothing you don't know. And you know everything that's going to happen. You're eternal. Well, what if you, the universe, wanted to experience yourself from a limited perspective so that it didn't know what would happen next? And you could explore yourself in all your infinite ways, in infinite perspectives. If you could dream anything you wanted, of course you'd get all the wild, crazy fantasies out of the way first, but you'd grow tired and maybe eventually you'd want a nightmare, not knowing what might happen. At the end of it all, you know that it's all divine in its own nature, but what would it be like to see a perspective in which you were a limited part of the universe, experiencing the whole universe? Well, in this way, you would be the whole universe, the small perspective of the universe, looking at the universe, no different, but just seeing it all differently. So let's say you, as the universe, who got bored, wanted to experience its vast infinitude in a limited perspective. What would you do as the entire universe if you knew everything and were everything, so much that you knew nothing and are nothing? Well, I would want to play a game, personally. I'd want to know what it was like to not know what was going to happen. I'd want to play a game in which I couldn't, you know, didn't have to make all the circumstances and decisions, where I couldn't, or didn't have to. I only had to be in charge of one limited being's decision, like a human, for example. I would want to know what it would be like to be a plant, an animal, a human, a planet, etc., etc. After all, you as the universe couldn't exist as the all infinite if it didn't also include the finite. In the same way, you can't be everything without also nothing. Otherwise, you would be everything except for nothing. And that wouldn't be everything. That would be everything except nothing. So, let's say you are this human. With whatever name you were given, you play the game of being a human, and you really believe you're an ego, a body born to parents, and in this world, well, the universe would know that the human is actually a partition of the universe, but also the whole universe. But the human doesn't know that, or maybe the human does, but it's so clouded by what they were told growing up and what they believed. It's the same thing as a hologram. One pixel of the hologram actually contains the whole image. In that way, it is and is not the whole image at the same time. It's supposed to be paradoxical. It's a feature, not a bug. You, the universe, and your infinite intelligence constructed the universe so vastly wise and intelligent that the humans can't even comprehend the most simplest creations or processes, and the intelligence that went behind every single event led up to this day. They think it's a coincidence or chance, but actually it's all law, because you as the universe knew everything that was going to happen, and you created everything that happened. And on top of that, you gave the humans the ability to think and be aware. You gave them the ability to be wrong and right. You gave them the ability to imagine and to create lives the way they wanted to, but you didn't give them the instruction manual, because then it would be boring. Obviously, if you got an infinite book of wisdom that just said just do all this and then boom, you'll be happy, you'll be rich, you'll be able to do whatever you want, then obviously that's what you would do and you would follow that. But here in this universe, we don't know what to trust or what not. We don't know what sources are credible or not, and so we either end up having to discover that for ourselves, or we blindly believe authority figures or structures that seem to have more power or understanding than we do, so we give them our power. But at the end of the day, you discover what's true for yourself. Now, on top of that, they were the entire universe, boundless, infinite, all wise and powerful, but they actually believed that they are their body and mind and ego. But you gave them tools to discover that they were the universe. Some people call it enlightenment. And on top of that, you even let them keep playing the game, even if they discovered who they really were and they knew it. They knew they were the universe and that everything was peace and joy. There can't be suffering when you are the all. There can't be bias when you are the all. There can't be death when you're the all. There can only be the end of this perspective of being, this human that thought it was the mind and the body, and that everything happening to it was mere chance. You didn't even know that you were creating your entire reality. All your beliefs were true because in your perspective, they were. So the universe, yourself, reflected that. The universe that you were didn't care either way. Only you did as this limited human being. So the universe gave you everything you told it was. Because you were the universe that got to decide that. And then you created a bunch of circumstances which led you to this and to that. And then you stumbled upon this video in which a different part of the universe told you you were the universe, but you already knew that. You didn't need anything outside of you to discover the truth because it was already the case. Now, anyways, I can go on forever, but I'll stop the thought experiment right there. So just sit here for a moment and really think about this. Self-reflection goes a long way. Notice anytime you self-inserted yourself into the story, and notice what triggered you or resonated with you. Just play the game. Imagine if everything I said was true. I'm not saying it is or isn't, but what do you think? Now, it's your life. You're the main character in your life. So it doesn't matter what some random guy on the internet thinks. It matters what you think. Now, let's just say this is all true. If it is, things might start making a lot more sense. What if we can entertain this being the case? We open our minds and see that, yeah, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Well, what if I said it was possible to know if it was true or not? What if I said you can know why we're here, what we're doing, who we are, what happens after, etc., etc.? What if I said you could discover it all? What if I said you could do anything and create anything? What would you like to know? Who would you want to be? And what would you want to create? Get a journal or something and write all that down, but be honest with yourself and discovering what you want and why. If you have to play the game, why not master it? If you get a choice between existing and not existing, well, if you chose to keep existing, why not make a life for yourself worth living? If you choose to not exist, I beg you to reconsider, because the best years of my life happened after the absolute worst years of my life. And now, my worst years, in my perspective, were also my best years. I understand wanting to die and wanting to commit suicide or to give up, whatever it may be, but I can promise you it's worth it to stick around. You are worth it. So let's say you are the all, and you are the creator of this life. Let's create something you actually enjoy. Notice those who don't take the game so seriously are the ones who enjoy it the most. We are just tiny entities on a space rock, traveling through nothingness. It's crazy how self-involved we are getting with these tiny things in life, like working to live, and how our entire life hinges on what happens, what we do, what we don't do. My goal is to help you remember who you are and help you through this journey we call life. Notice how in this video I didn't really tell you who you are. That's because only you get to decide who you are in this life. What you are is so much more than your fears, than your worries, your limited beliefs, than your traumas, than all of these things. You are it. You are that being. You can do anything, be anything. You can have anything. You are the all. Remember, once you silence the mind, you realize that you weren't your thoughts. Once you feel your body without projecting what's happening onto it, you realize you aren't your body. There are infinite paths towards discovering this, and all lead towards the destination. There's not one right way. There's not one right path. There's not a way that is more proficient or less proficient. There is no telling when you will discover it. It could happen to you walking down the street being an atheist, or it could happen to you 20 years after meditating with a bunch of monks on a mountain. You can't force it. You can grow and develop yourself, and the rest will follow. If you couldn't tell, I've been listening to a lot of Alan Watts, but just like any teacher or guru or Buddha, they are all teaching the same thing, whether they know it or not. But a mind that only thinks thoughts has nothing to think about except thoughts. Notice how something exists like a table or a desk, whether you think about it or not. This is how you can tell there is something more to life than thinking, that there is a way to discover truth. And counterintuitively, isn't by thinking, it's by being, by removing limiting beliefs and projections of what reality is, and by actually experiencing reality. You can think about reality all day. You can talk about reality all day. But what reality actually is, it's right in front of you 24/7. Observe your mind, feel your body, get in tune with your senses, look at your body, look at the room. That's reality. It had nothing to do with your thoughts or beliefs. It just is. Now imagine what else you might discover if you silence the mind and the senses and all the sensory effects that make the reality feel very real. What would reality be? Well, remember the answers are always present right now, and it's never not the case. If it seems like I'm dodging the question or whatever, or begging the question, good. Because the last thing I want is to give you another thing to believe. The last thing I want to do is say, this is the answer, this is the truth, the one truth, and if you want to be absolutely right, then you have to believe everything I say because that would just be ignorant and wrong. Okay, beliefs amount for nothing and actually have nothing to do with truth. Now, look at your hand or some other part of your body if you don't have hands. You don't have to believe that because it's right there. Maybe we don't know what it is. Maybe we call it the sound vibration hand. Maybe we don't understand exactly what it's made of or the processes going on to make it do what it does, but we are conscious of it. But we do know that something is happening and is real. We didn't have to believe it. We didn't have to make a religion out of it, a dogma, an ideology, a paradigm. We didn't have to kill, rape, and murder for it. It was just the case, regardless of what we decided to do, believe, or project onto it. We're just conscious of it, and that's it. I want you to become conscious of what's actually the case. Obviously, this video can raise more questions than it answers, and it can really stem off into an infinite amount of topics and conversations like direct experience, non-duality, and honestly, the list is endless. But one thing I want you to remember is to just be wise. If I tell you to make your bed every morning, but this one particular morning your house catches on fire, it does not mean to make your bed because I told you to. You can be wise enough to know that. That's a broad example, but going forward in this work, there's going to be a lot of times where you need to be able to discern what I mean. Like if I say to practice acceptance, for example, in one of my previous videos, it means to accept your current situation. It doesn't mean stay complacent. If I tell you to practice acceptance and your house catches on fire, it doesn't mean to stay in your house because I told you to accept all things that happen. No, use your wisdom to get out of the house. Use your wisdom to acknowledge. Yes, this happened, and there's nothing I can do about it now. What can I do next? Now, if you've made it this far, thank you. I appreciate it. Check out my other content if you like this video. As always, I may have not covered everything I wanted to, but I know I've covered everything that I needed to. Until next time, have the day you were meant to have, and keep pushing forward. You got this.